Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Shawn Mackey Show. He's so unpredictable. Mother Nature calls him for advice. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 14 of the Shawn Mackey Show. I want to first start out by saying you're absolutely welcome. The fact that I recorded the last episode poolside from Cabo San Lucas, and I left my shirt on for you. I didn't have to have that nasty image of me shirtless at a resort while I recorded that episode. Yes, my podcast, as you're listening to this, is audio only. But if you do follow me on social media at Shawn P. Mackey on Facebook, Shawn Mackey 96 on YouTube, bunch of other places, just use my name. You can find me. You notice I use short video clips of the podcast in order to promote the show, so none of you had to see me shirtless, so you're welcome for that. We went on vacation. Of course, things get neglected around the house, so we kind of took last week off. I do not have an episode dedicated solely to the Bears versus the Ravens, and quite frankly, after watching that game, I was basically left speechless. I don't think I made a single post on Facebook as that game was going on. I was doing some things around the house because I had to start a new job the next day. So I was trying to get some things done. I didn't dedicate 100% full effort to watching that game, especially after watching a lot of the first half and seeing the way it was going. That was a debacle from beginning to end. What can I say? It was a shit game. It was a game that left me absolutely speechless. I felt like Caleb Williams regressed in that game again. This kid is so up and down. But now after watching Bo Nix the other night against the Vegas Raiders, I'm not willing to say that. I mean, yes, there's some quarterbacks from that draft class that are having more consistent years than Caleb, but Caleb is still, there's still something there. There's still just, if Ben Johnson can just take that Play-Doh and mold it a little bit better and get it a little bit tighter to where this kid goes out and shows his brilliance on a weekly basis. And he kind of comes back against the Bengals, but we'll get to that later because the rest of this episode does cover the Bengals game. But the Bears made a shit ton of stupid mistakes. Even Ben Johnson came out and said, it's hard to win a football game when you play ugly football like that. No shit, Ben. We know it's hard to win a football game when you play like that. And once again, you said, we got to go in next week to fixing the problem and the issues. How many weeks are you going to get to fix this? You only got like 7 more left, but Caleb Williams ends up 25 to 38 with 285 yards in that game. He's bailed out by DJ Moore with that great one-handed catch late in the game for a 42-yard completion after getting Rome Odunze the ball on a 20-yard completion prior to that. But then they end up not being able to score. And the Bears were absolutely in this game. At some point, it's 13-6. That's it, right? And then Baltimore kicks a field goal. It's 16-6. And then the Bears drive, and then there's a touchdown. And it brings the game to within 16-13. They force the Ravens to punt. Caleb Williams now has an opportunity to drive this team down the field and take the lead. If you can put the ball in the end zone and score a touchdown, what does he do? He throws an ill-advised pass that's picked off at the 18-yard line. And 2 plays later, the Ravens score to make it 23-13. Okay? Still a reachable game for the Chicago Bears when it's 23-13. 2 plays, 9 yards. Caleb basically throws what is essentially a pick 6, right? So the Bears come down. It's 23-13. All they can muster next is a field goal. 23-16 Bears. Boom, next possession, they let Baltimore go down and score. It's 30-16. The game was put out of reach, I think. You knocked the sails out of the Bears. They were playing like shit to begin with, but you really knocked it out when you got that two play 9-yard touchdown to make it 23-13. DJ Moore bails out Caleb Williams. Great one-handed catch, puts the Bears down in the scoring position. Bears end up turning the ball over on downs. Baltimore runs the clock out. Injuries played a factor in this game as well. Bears have been decimated by injuries. In fact, coming up here tomorrow against the Giants, they got a bunch more guys on the injured list. So wasn't looking good at the end of that game against the Ravens. The Bears, I feel like they were outcoached. They were outplayed. You had one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and you had to use 4 guys to put up only a measly 96 yards rushing for the game. So your O-line looked terrible. Basically, the run game was absent. DeAndre Swift had 45 yards, I think. And then Monangai had 24. Williams had 24. DJ Moore had 3 yards. So I couldn't even come up with greats or ain'ts from this game. And I might change that to champs and chumps. I don't know. I like studs and duds, but again, I've said this before. I don't want to steal somebody else's shit. So I want to highlight players during each game, but I haven't been able to find in my creativeness the 2 words that kind of flow off your tongue like studs and duds. So I started and I talked about greats and ain'ts, and then I thought, hey, champs and chumps. I don't know. So I'm going to just record episodes, and whatever continuously comes out of my mouth, that's what we might end up going with, right? So, yeah. That was a shit game all the way around. That's all I got to say about the Bears versus Ravens. Glad it's put behind us. We came out, we witnessed some absurdity in the Bears versus the Bengals game. Oh my God. That game could have produced, there may have been some trips to the ER from the Chicago Bears fan base after that game. And I'll let you in on a little secret a little bit later in the episode, but I want to get to it. They start out really well, running the ball well. I mean, in the first start, Kyle Monangai's first start, in the first half alone, he's got 16 carries for 100 yards. All right. The defense was lagging a little bit. I didn't see a lot of pressure up front. I saw breakdowns in coverage by Nashawn Wright and Tyreek Stevenson. At some point in that game, we only had 1 sack by C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and he was leading the team with 4 tackles at the half. You had I don't know, was it a missed field goal or did it get partially touched? Missed block field goal. Special teams opens up the game and gives up a 98-yard kickoff return. What the fuck was going on in that game? For a good portion of that game, I thought that the Bears were dominating that game, and then the fucking end of that game. You know what? Here's the secret I was going to let you in on. With less than 2 minutes left to go in the game, when the Bears were winning, oh shit, what was it at that point? 20, let me look at it here. At that point when I left the game, it was 41-27. So yes, it was. The Bears got down to the 2 minute, under 2 minutes, and I'm pretty sure at that point when I decided to go out and mow the leaves. we got a couple of big trees. I don't really like bagging them. It takes too many bags. We usually have over 100. But at that point, I'm pretty sure it got down to the 2-minute warning. And let me just double check this on the play by play. But it was, I want to say it was less than 2 minutes to go in the game. Yeah, Bayard picks off Flacco at 3:07 left to go in the game. They called McLeod for defensive pass interference. Then Edmonds picks off the ball, runs 96 yards for the touchdown. They rule him down by contact. It's still 41-27. The Bears end up going 3 and out. Went for it on 4th down. Punt the ball, 2:24 left. I get down to, I want to say it's about a minute 43. No, minute 53. It was just under. It was like minute 53. I think they just came off the 2-minute warning. I'm like, I'm going to go out and rake the leaves and no worries. Bears got this game in hand. I get done. I said, rake, I get done mowing the leaves. I pull the phone out. I flip on the score just to solidify and make sure the Bears won 41-27. And I see that the fucking Bears win 47-42. And all that shit that happened at the end of the game, I promise you, had I been watching it, I would have gone to the ER. So yes, you can give me all the shit and grief you want that I didn't stick around for the last 2 minutes of that game. But quite frankly, the way I saw it at that point in the game, to me, it was like the Bears were dominating. And when less than 2 minutes to go in the game, you're winning 41-27. Jesus Christ, that's 14. I'm thinking you got the game in hand. Fuck. Cardiac Bears, come out and put that game so close. And they almost, and I see at one point, the Bengals scored the touchdown. And the Bears were actually losing 42-41. But then Caleb Williams hits fucking Colston Loveland, and he bounces off a couple of guys and takes it to the house. Bears win. Holy shit. So my greats and my ain'ts for that game, of course, or my champs and my chumps. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know which one rolls off the tongue. I don't think either of them do. But my guys and no guys, I don't know. That is the name. I'll figure something out as the weeks progress here. But of course, Kyle Monangai, he 26 carries, 176 yards rushing, most rushing yards by a rookie in a long, long time since like Anthony Thomas or some shit. He had 188 yards in a game. He also put up 22 yards receiving. Many of those yards came after contact, right? So good to see that for Kyle Monangai. DJ Swift is healthy. If they're both healthy, Ben Johnson has a choice to make against the Giants, right? I'm going to go with the O-line as a champ or a great. Their run blocking, especially creating the initial holes for Monangai, continuing to block downfield to allow those bigger games. And basically the O-line gets credited for 37 carries, 283 yards total for that O-line, right? 3 of the Bears offensive linemen for the Bears Wire report graded out as the best for this game. Darnell Wright at 94.1, Jonah Jackson at 91.1, and Ozzie Trapillo at 90.1. They saw some kind of things where Ozzie Trapillo was going in motion, adding in an extra lineman there. The run game looked really, really spectacular. Another one of my greats or a champ from that game, DJ Moore. He had a TD throw. He had 3 catches for 58 yards in the first half, 17-yard run for a TD. Of course, he was ruled out of bounds, but was he? There was some questions about a possible fumble there, so Zach Taylor says he's going to challenge. I think he fumbled and the ball went out of the end zone, which would be a safety. So Cincinnati challenges the play, and the officials come back and say, DJ scored. Touchdown, Bears. That's what I'm talking about. is all my bitching about the NFL and replay and how it's affected the officiating. That's one of the times you're going to take it for your team, right? Cincinnati challenges that it's a fumble to lead to a possible safety for them. And the officials say, well, actually, what had happened was DJ's arm got over the pylon and broke the end zone while his foot was still in bounds and he was in the air before he went out of bounds. Yeah. Colston Loveland, another one of my champs, 6 receptions, 118 yards. Huge run after the catch for the winning touchdown. Bears, heart attack. Now my ain'ts or my chumps, special teams. 98-yard kickoff return. Failed field goal. Was it blocked? Did they just miss it? Couldn't recover the onside kick. Ball hits Daniel Hardy or whatever his name is in the foot, and then everybody's looking around. Cincinnati recovers the onside kick. Whoop! They're winning. Stupid ass special teams. Richard Hightower. I'm going to say Caleb Williams in the first half was one of my chumps. He was only 12 of 22 for 136 yards. He did have a receiving touchdown catch, had another catch later in the game. But in the first half, he's still missing easy throws. He's missing the checkdowns a lot of times. You know, when he's going through his progressions, but then he has to bail out because the pocket's collapsing. And you look at the replay and he had a check down. He had somebody right there. He had an easy out that if he just sees that, boom, he can hit it. And then I think at some point they tell him, and he's panicking a little bit under pressure. And then there's also instances where he's not seeing the whole field. And as he's getting ready to scramble out of the pocket, he's got a huge running lane. And I think it was mentioned 4 or 5 times by the announcers for that game, is like, if he just takes off and runs there, he maybe picks up 8 or 9 yards. So, and I think at halftime, they said to him, like, you're missing some checkdowns. So then in the second half, he comes out right away, and that's all he's doing is hitting the checkdowns. I saw 2 replays, two passing plays in a row that the Bears run, and Caleb takes the snap, and it's like he looks to his number one, and the number one's not there, and boom, he immediately hits the check down. Now, I know based on some plays and some routes, you've got a good quarterback. Their head could be looking at number one, but their eyes, their left eye, if they see the field well, they could have number 2 and number 3 on target. So if you're looking and you're like, it's too close, you hit the check down. But sometimes you have to look at the distance you're looking at out of your peripherals where you do have that, and maybe it's not as close as you think. So if you actually go through the progressions, you could maybe get your eyes actually on number 2 and number 3 and see, okay, yes, they're covered too closely. Let me hit the check down. Oh, that's not as close as I thought. Let me get this ball out there to number 2 or number 3. So I think at some point Caleb was told he was missing his check down. Now he wasn't going through his progressions, and he was just hitting the checkdowns. All right. So, early in the second half, he throws behind Dunze in the end zone. That could have been a touchdown. He ends up taking the delay of game penalty. They still end up getting the TD on that drive. He kind of redeems himself. Not enough for me to put him into the champs category. And again, he was 20 of 34 for 285 yards out. And he does grade out as one of the Bears' best players for that game because of what happened and transpired in the second half. I'm going to say that the chumps, another set of chumps on this team for this week, Bears versus Bengals, was the Bears secondary, specifically Nashawn Wright and Tyreek Stevenson. They were the two of them together in the entire Bears secondary allows Flacco to throw for over 470 yards. Yes, they had a couple of injuries, which again leads me to Ryan Poles and the personnel he's given Ben Johnson to work with on the depth chart. It's not as good. I don't think I don't think the Chicago Bears number twos on the defensive depth chart are number twos on any other depth chart. They're probably number threes. That's the best way I can explain how bad I feel Ryan Poles has done completely making a complete team or giving Ben Johnson a complete team. And I know it's a work in progress. You have to have some pieces put in place one year, some other pieces put in place the next year, but you got to have a balance between there. You know, you can't be like, okay, we got all our number ones put in place, but we got a shitty number two and number three. So let's hope to God it doesn't get there. And now the Bears are suffering all these injuries and it's fucking getting there. All right. I'm not really still not impressed. I know that, and I still say this, and this is one of those conundrums wrapped in a mystery, surrounded by an enigma or whatever the hell you want to call it. I'm not impressed with Dennis Allen and the defense, because if Dennis Allen was that good of a coach, he would actually have some shit figured out for having a depth chart that is not as good as his number ones because of those injuries. But even with some of the number ones, we see some linebackers having to be put in coverage, blowing coverage on a tight end. Defense gets called for another defensive holding. And then a few moments later, after the tight end beats the linebacker for like a 15 or 20-yard gain, the Bengals decline the defensive holding penalty. Then Flacco just lays an easy pass out right on Tyreek Stevenson's guy. Not only does Stevenson get hit with the defensive pass interference, but he still allows the ball to be caught at the 2-yard line. A couple of plays later, Flacco puts another dime right in front of C.J. Gardner-Johnson and gives up a touchdown. It was a great catch, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like this defense, even when we have the number ones in there, they give up way too many big plays. And I don't see Dennis Allen consistently bringing the pressure. When he does bring the pressure and has success, as a former defensive guy myself and a defensive coordinator, you continue, when you have success bringing the pressure, you continue to bring the pressure. And you force them to find ways to beat you while you're bringing that pressure. You don't bring the pressure and then back off a little bit and then only rush 3 and then go into immediate prevent defenses. Because I've said this before, that good fucking quarterbacks will tear apart a zone defense or prevent defenses. If you have a good quarterback and he's going to call the plays, but he's going to say, look, if we signal that this is zone coverage, if I see this is zone coverage, you guys just need to break your routes and sit down and I'll find you somewhere. And he will. A good quarterback will always do that. I think the Bears lack good depth at any position, really, right? And then especially on defense. Now the Bears lose Dayo Odeyingbo to injury. And what does fucking Ryan Poles do? Nothing. I mean, who the hell is Joe Shoyinka? He's been in the NFL for 4 years. He's a Washington kid, goes to his hometown college. So this is his third team in 4 years. He's got 15 sacks over the course of 4 years. So if he gets one more this season and has 16, is 4 sacks a year. So that's who you go out and trade for. You get him in a 7th round pick and you give up a 6th round pick. So in the grand scheme of things for Ryan Poles, not that big of a deal. He gave up a 6th round pick, I believe, or whatever it was, for this guy. But he certainly wasn't one of the notable defensive guys out there that some of the other teams in the NFL ended up trading for and picking up. You know, I don't think the Bears graded out very well. It's the only real move they make. I know they just brought in a cornerback, a defensive back, kind of like a prove it kind of contract after he just got let go. So they're trying to and they did bring in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So they're trying to do some things, but I just don't know if Poles really knows of the things that he's doing. So we're going to have to wait and see how the Joe Shoyinka deal plays out for the rest of the season. Maybe this is the opportunity he needs. Maybe he goes out and ends the season with 7 some sacks with the Bears. makes me shut my mouth. I hope the fuck so, but I don't think so. I don't know, right? By the end of the third quarter for the Bears-Bengals game, they held slight advantages in every measurable category: total yards, time of possession. They were actually 3 and 4 in the red zone, so we saw some improvement there. 6 of 11 on third downs, 2 for 2 on fourth downs by the time I took down and jotted down these stats. Penalties seemed to be down, 5 of 34. 0 turnovers. Austin Booker had a nice strip sack. We've talked about him. Want to see what he can do. All right. Early in the fourth quarter, there was a Bears, I think, got a turnover, and there was some terrible play calling in the red zone. And because of that, Bears only managed a Santos field goal off of that late turnover. Then we had that double pass trick screen to Zacchaeus, and Williams panics again. We did see Montez Sweat have a sack in this game, but I'm going to tell you what, the stupidest thing that is that fucking down by contact rule. I mean, Tremaine Edmonds is diving for the football. The receiver's falling backwards. The receiver's finger scrapes Edmonds' jersey as Edmonds is in the air. He makes the catch, solidifies the catch, hits the ground, rolls over, gets up, takes the ball for 96 yards for the pick six. Only for the refs to say he was down by contact because the tip of that receiver's finger scraped his fucking jersey while he was in the air and wasn't on his feet. Had he been on his feet, would they have counted that? Had he fell down and tripped on his own? That was a terrible, terrible, terrible call. I don't like that rule. I mean, I know the booth official that they bring in on the game said that that's the letter of the law, the letter of the rule. It was a good call. Oh, I get it when a guy dives, catches the ball, is on his knees trying to get up, and you tag him. You say he's down by contact because he's down. But the finger scraping the jersey before he's down to be considered the contact strong enough to cause him to go down was fucking pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. All right. That's all the time I'm going to dedicate to this episode. I do want to start talking about what I like to call some forgotten NFL legends. I had that scheduled for us today for this episode, but my recap, my little as it was recap on the Bears versus Ravens game caused me to go a little bit long when we got to the Bears versus the Bengals game. So I'm going to let you on something I've not really done before. Hoping you'll come back and listen next time. You hear? I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to give you, oh, do I want it? No, I'm just going to tell you we're going to talk about some forgotten NFL legends. If I start telling you who they are now, you could do your own research and then you don't have to listen to the show. But these guys are going to be considered NFL legends, not always for what they did on the field. Sometimes for what they did off the field, sometimes the combination of both on the field and off the field, in my mind, makes them a legend. And since nobody talks about them, they're forgotten. So stay tuned for future episodes when we start showcasing at the end of our Bears recap some forgotten NFL legends. That's all the time I got for you guys today. I'm glad you stuck with me. I hope you come back. Where you can see things are getting a little bit crazy here at the Shawn Mackey Show because we're getting a little bit more enthusiasm. We're getting a little bit more excited because we're figuring some things out a little bit more for our sanity and yours. Peace. Peace. I'm out the door. Hey, if I made you laugh, made you think, or even made you smile, please tell all your friends. If I didn't, just keep that shit to yourself. Thanks for listening to the Shawn Mackey Show.